Prisons today may look harsh, but history's oldest prisons were far worse. They were dungeons of starvation, torture, and horror. Inside these walls, kings starved to death, philosophers were silenced, and entire lives were erased in darkness. This is the shocking truth of history's oldest prisons. Imagine being thrown through a hole into total darkness. No windows, no air, no escape. That was the Mamertine dungeon in Rome. Here, King Jugurtha of Numidia, once a mighty ruler, was chained underground and starved to death like an animal. According to tradition, St. Peter and St. Paul were also imprisoned here before execution. Prisoners begged for death because life inside the Mamertine was worse. In Athens, prisons were not built for thieves or murderers, they were built for those who spoke too loudly. The most shocking case, Socrates. Locked in a small chamber, he was forced to drink poison hemlock in front of his friends and followers. His crime? Teaching people to question authority. His prison became his execution chamber, proof that truth itself could be silenced. The Tower of London was more than a fortress. It was a place of terror. And Boleyn, the Queen of England, spent her last hours here before being publicly beheaded. Guy Fawkes, after the Gunpowder Plot, was tortured so brutally on the rack that his signature on his confession looked like a scribble. Some prisoners even disappeared without a trace. Rumors say their ghosts still haunt the tower's corridors. Venice hid two of the most shocking prisons in Europe. The Pozzi, or wells, were underground pits flooded with sewage. Prisoners were left in filth, disease eating away at their bodies. The Piombi, or leads, were boiling hot metal chambers under the palace roof. In summer, temperatures soared so high that prisoners' skin blistered and peeled. Yet in 1756, one man, Giacomo Casanova, escaped. He climbed through a hole in the roof and vanished into the night, making him the only man to beat Venice's nightmare. Off the coast of Marseille, Château d'If became France's version of Alcatraz. Prisoners of war, political enemies, and common criminals were dumped here. The conditions were so brutal that many went insane staring at the endless sea from behind iron bars. One shocking case, the man in the iron mask, a mysterious prisoner whose identity was kept secret even in death. Some say he was a royal relative too dangerous to reveal. Even in modern times, prisons could still be hell on earth. Devil's Island was a penal colony surrounded by shark-infested waters. Prisoners were forced into deadly jungle labor, battling malaria and starvation. One shocking event, in 1938, a group of prisoners tried to escape on a raft made of coconuts. The ocean swallowed them whole. Of the 80,000 men sent here, barely a handful ever made it out alive. Nothing in history compares to the horror of the Black Hole of Calcutta. After a battle, 146 British prisoners were crammed into a cell built for only 20. The air grew hotter, bodies pressed tighter, and panic spread. By morning, only 23 were alive. The rest suffocated, crushed, or trampled in the chaos. One night, over 120 dead. This event shocked the entire world. For centuries, the Bastille stood as a symbol of tyranny. Noblemen, writers, and rebels were locked in its dark, damp cells, often without trial. On July 14, 1789, angry revolutionaries stormed the Bastille, freeing just 7 prisoners. But the shocking event wasn't the rescue, it was the destruction. The fall of this prison ignited the French Revolution and changed the world forever. And then came the gulags, Soviet labor camps in the frozen wastes of Siberia. Prisoners were forced to mine, build railroads, and log forests in temperatures below -40 degrees Celsius. If the cold didn't kill them, starvation and exhaustion did. Millions entered the gulags. Millions never returned. For them, Siberia itself became one giant prison.